The Walking Dead No Man's Land is the official mobile game of AMC's The Walking Dead. It's a turn-based action strategy game where you battle hordes of walkers with all of your favorite The Walking Dead heroes, including Daryl, Rick, and Michonne. There's tons to do, and they even added a new hardcore game mode for experienced players called The Distance.
Just download the free game today from App Store or Google Play, or go to getnomansland.com/Negan now and get Negan for free. You want to go get Negan for free. This special offer is only available right now. That's getnomansland.com/Negan.
Get it.
All right, guys. I know you've been practicing this intro bit. You are so ready for it. Hit me with the intro. I am so excited. I'm just gonna sit back.
This is a intro requested by, I think, four fans out of however many listeners we have. Only four people will recognize and or even like this. So Swain, should we do it at the same time?
Yeah.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Hello, boyos!
You're welcome, just you people. Sorry we forgot to do this 8 months ago when it was relevant. Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. It's Crucible Radio 2, podcast for all things Destiny 2 PvP.
That was just a really old Phantom Menace reference.
Hey, what a perfect opportunity to plug Patreon, where we do movie nights, and you can come watch Star Wars prequels with us. We're doing Attack of the Clones real soon. It's a real fun time. Seriously, it's actually really fun. Come watch.
Do you guys ever have that moment where you just like record an interview with Ramblinnn and it's so good and so detailed,
and then
it
you
could
just
like
shit
be a
all over
whole
the beginning of the episode?
And then you just figure, well, let's just poop out a real quick one up top.
Oh, God.
Make mine extra poopy. Oh, my, yeah.
Guys, I promise this episode gets so good. It's legit. It's informative. It's helpful. It's not about OODA loops.
Or meditating.
OODA loopa dooba dee doo. I've got a better
All right, nope, it's not.
Do you? It was gonna rhyme. I missed a syllable, but it was gonna rhyme.
I will just say, and maybe we'll revisit it, but go to a Crucible playbook and check out the OODA Loop post. The comment section there is so great. There's the top comments from this guy, Carpacalypto. We might have to come back to this in the show, but he talks about his experiences as a colonel in the Special Forces community. Apparently a lot of Destiny players there, and how OODA is like a real thing that is a game changer. But let's get right into it. And let's get to this interview. Guys, what's been going on? Let's recap this quick. Swain, what's been going on in the world of D2 for you?
So, I have been playing Sunbreaker this week in Iron Banner.
Sunbreaker?
Yeah. I think I figured it out. And since this episode was amazing with Ramblinnn, we're going to save that for next week, where I'm going to go in depth into why I like it so much. But quick notes on it is that I found what I actually like. The setup's pretty cool. It's not as bad as you think it is. And it's got some tricks up its sleeves and some hidden perks. So lots of cool things built into the Sunbreaker subclass that I didn't know about until I gave it the good old try. And not even 2 hours ago, hand cannons. I've just been enjoying hand cannons tonight in the Crucible, specifically the Iron Banner hand cannon. What about you, birdos?
Well, I'm in the middle of travel hell right now. I was in Atlanta last week. I was in Vegas this week. And then on Monday, I'm going to be in Lincoln, Nebraska. But then I'm done. I'm done. So I've legit played like 4 hours of D2 and it's killing me. And I did get a chance at the last possible second today to play some Iron Banner, and I got some hot takes, but those will be later. I did get to grind it out in some comp and some quick play with the Birds Monarchy crew last weekend, where my Warlock was just coming online, just got my first full set of purple armor and applied shaders, and crowdsourced this one to the Birds Monarchy fam to decide how I'm going to look. Did you guys know that you can have Arctic Pearl on one piece of armor, Nebula Rose on another piece of armor, Dawn to Dusk on another piece of armor, and I haven't picked out anything for my boots yet. It is bonkers, and it actually kind of all works because they're all sort of pink-purple spectrum. I just pick whatever piece looked the fucking shiniest, and life is good. I'm figuring out the Devour Voidwalker. I miss elements of the Hunter kit. That have an equivalent on Warlock, but I'm not sure, or that have an equivalent on Titan, but I'm not quite sure how to do on Warlock, but definitely starting to get the hang of it. I switch. I do use Blink, but I'm just not great with it yet. So when I get frustrated by it, I'll switch to Focus Burst.
I'm so curious if people who just never blinked before are picking it up or not, because it's like weird now. Like if you just played D2, it's weird. Like that's a crazy different jump. But in D1, it was so common. But I know that I don't think I would immediately gravitate towards it if I didn't already know I loved it a long time ago, you know?
It's been a long time since I played a class with Blink, and I'm loving Blink in D2.
Really?
Yeah. Like, it's been a really long time since I used the Blink.
Yeah.
And, the only thing I have trouble adapting to that just requires more playtime is the radar. That's pretty much it. Like you have to be a little bit better at anticipating when you're going to need the radar through your jumps, and like just simply knowing where people are will help.
I think the part of the learning curve that's been difficult for me is just getting a really like intuitive gut level sense of the kit, especially with Devour. When am I going to eat that grenade? When and where am I going to pop my rift? And I find myself sitting on rifts a lot because the moment I want to use them, I'm not in a great position to really get much value out of it or to help my teammates with it. Yeah, just sort of getting that positioning that supports those two things a little bit more intuitive it's coming. It's coming. I'm figuring it out. Bonesy, what about you? What do you like?
Man, I've been switching guns every game. I've been playing with a lot. Our conversation with Ramblinnn in the future for you, but in the past for me is definitely, well, it's what I needed to hear to kind of push myself out of a few fallbacks. But I've been really, really conscious, almost paranoid about my range capabilities. And I've just always been like, oh, I need a scout. I need something to compete at that range. So if I want to run Antiope in the primary, I'm like, oh, I'll put on Manannan or whatever. But that's maybe not the best gun for the map or something like that. So I'm super paranoid and I'm constantly trying to like make up for what my loadout lacks, I guess. But I want to just try out different builds and say like, what can I run an auto rifle and an SMG? Can I play like King Koala and just be up in everyone's faces all the time? Can I do that? Or do I need to sit back and play passive? But I've been trying the Iron Banner weapons. I like the auto rifle a lot. I do like the hand cannon. In subclasses, we're going to talk about a really, really good one that I have definitely been cheating on. But I just like Dawnblade. And I feel like I like it because I like being the hipster now that runs Dawnblade. It's like, I liked it this whole time. And now no one plays it. That makes it cooler.
I feel like we've got a pretty good track record of D2 of just like calling it before other people catch on. I think we each have a couple at this point, and you're locking down this Dawnblade one right now.
There's maybe more to it.
Quick Fang.
I don't want to say that for sure, but there's stuff I just like that feels good, and it's like, oh, maybe this isn't the best, completely great skill tree for just slaying, but it fits me, and it's important that I remember that because my game is not play the best meta and get the most kills. My game is, make up for my slow reaction time and play smart, make good decisions and make good call outs. And I need to play what accentuates that. So if I'm solo queuing and I'm using Hunter because I like rolling around and I like dodging and trying to get crazy shots with a golden gun, that's fun. But when it comes to me, the Dawnblade works and it's a safe play. And maybe that's less exciting for people at the moment. But I think there's a few things to unlock. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, we've got Iron Banner this week. And I think to a degree you can say, look, Banner is Banner. It was around in D1. Obviously, there's some big changes in D2, but it's still Iron Banner. We're still just playing that slightly more competitive control. What do you guys think? You already mentioned getting some of the weapon drops that are standouts. I've not had many interesting drops yet, but what do you like?
I just like playing control and actually getting a hang of that game mode, because after playing it so much in the beta, I feel like I forgot what to do once I got into Destiny 2 as a whole. And I was playing so much Countdown, and I'm just like kind of hoping for those Clash games. When it comes to control, everyone just kind of runs around and gets kills. So when it's the only game type, you have to play the objective to win. And how do you do that? And I really started to get myself like focused on like, guys, let's just do B and C here, man. Let's not go nuts and try to fight for A every time. And it was nice to sort of get back into that habit of making just smart, large game decisions.
I need to make this public service announcement to everyone that's listening right now. You do not have to have more than one person on a point to cap it. So,
what if you're playing against a striker titan who's about to throw double pulse nades on the point? Then do I want everybody on the point?
Bunch up.
Yeah, bunch up, everyone.
Because that titan is me, and I'm about to get those kills.
Yo, one person on the point caps it just as fast as 4 people. Everybody else go elsewhere. Play the point more strategically. Have people covering all the angles, especially if your team is going for B. Don't all just stand there and get killed by someone. That's where all the grenades are going to go. So if you all split up and cover all the angles, you will dominate that point. Obviously, it's much harder when you are solo queuing to coordinate that with your team. And sometimes you're just chasing chickens with no heads. But it's important that I say it.
Also, if we're playing Endless Veil, and you have A and you have B, and just because you just killed someone on A and you all call out they're going to spawn on C, don't sprint all to C. Because guess what? You don't need that third point and they are coming to you. Just play defensively. And that helped me so much. I feel like there was this, you just said the phrase chicken with your head cut off. That kind of sums it up. It's just like kill, radar. And just having a game plan of guys like, let's just take B and C on this map, or even A and B on a different one, really, really makes a huge difference. Also, can we give a shout out to Distant Shores, which is the Shores of Time remake, and how beautiful a map that is?
Yeah, it's real nice.
Remix.
It's so nice. It's so pretty. I love it.
It's really like a shorter range map than you'd think now, because they kind of took away those super long sight lines where you could kind of like post up on the boats. Just like hold down. There's a lot of like rotating and short engagements on that map now, because in order to get the kill, you kind of have to navigate through like pillars and get close to the point while someone's capping. And it's definitely more so auto rifle range than it is scout rifle range.
My first game on it was my first night in Iron Banner, and I was just solo queuing. And I spawned A side down low, and I just sprinted there. I jumped up the gap with my Warlock towards B, dropped a solar grenade, sprayed down some people with Last Hope, and I was like, I know how this works. And just that opening move of everyone just like sprinting to B, and I'm just like, no, I know how to play this map. Felt so good.
The other thing that I saw a lot of was people not understanding how to take the spawn on Emperor's Respite. It's people get stuck like on the inside of that map. But quick tip, if you want to own the map, you got to sneak through pipes, which is all the way to the right, and cap A behind them, then take B. That's the trick.
A is a really annoying point to have to deal with when someone is capping it away from you. Because there's just not a lot of great sight lines to it. You really need to close in on it, and that is it's time consuming. Guys, I need to get them out. I have some Iron Banner hot takes.
Hot takes, let's drop it.
Hey, yo, CR, can you throw me a hot take?
New hot take. Only Bones understands all of my references because we both listen to a lot of Comedy Bang Bang. I think we're actually that is the third one this episode that at least I've picked up on.
Hey, Birds, for the Halloween episode, do you want to see the Monster Mash sex parody? And you and I can just do that.
I don't want. They're going to do it again. There's no reason. There's no reason we need to. No, I want the Brett Gelman and what's his name duo with the 1122 Boogie Boogie Avenue.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry, Crucible Radio listeners, we're having a moment here. Hot take. With the exception of the helmets, all that Iron Banner armor is fucking ugly, and I would not be caught dead.
Get off this podcast.
Wait, you're just like walking around covered head to toe in logos? Is this 1995? Have a little dignity, a little sanity. That's just how I feel.
You're allowed to have your hot takes, but I'm allowed to hate you.
Seconds earlier, we were friends.
I mean, like, look, if I could get a version of that armor that wasn't covered in logos, then I'd be like, dope, I'm a samurai.
Iron Banner is the supreme of Destiny 2.
It is. All these box logo fuckboys just covered head to toe. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, let's just let that one stand. They're three great looking helmets, and I want all of them. And the hunter boots are just because all the hunter boots are for the most part terrible, and like it's just like wow, these are just regular boots.
That hunter helmet is the best helmet in the game.
I'll go with that. It's so gold. They're dope helmets, but those chest pieces are all janky, and you feel bad.
You just have a thing against all the chest pieces. The arms on the Titan have the doggos on them. They're awesome. Have all that.
Yeah, those are sick.
It's just, guys.
Can we kick him off?
Yeah.
Halfway through the episode.
Boot him from his Audacity file.
You could, but then you would miss out on my second hot take, and I'm excited for this one.
Oh boy.
Like, these are especially spicy this week. I've not heard a single person on the internet agree with me on either of these. But the fuck are all of you on about with solo queue? I played 10 solo queue matches in a row and won them all. Look, maybe I'm not in that super, like, difficult 4-man sweaty matchmaking tier, or maybe it's more difficult when it's like you're in a 2-person team versus a 4-person team. But look, solo queue control is not that hard. Swain gave the secret a minute ago. You only need one person to cap a point. If you get spawned in with a good team of blueberries, then party up with them and roll around the map. If they're splitting up and you can't really trust them, then go to the part of the map that people aren't at and cap the points. Because there's nothing that undercuts a team of 4 that is sticking together and is not spreading out, is moving in a straightforward rotation around the map. There's nothing that cuts the legs out of them than having to go recap the point they just captured. And you can make up for a boo-boo team when all of your kills count 2 or 3 times more than they do. It's not difficult. It's not difficult to get a 4-squad shook. I beat like 4 of them today. Deal with it.
Also, here's the thing about that hot take about solo queue and Iron Banner. I was going to like step back from my mic and yell this, but I want to do it in a way that doesn't annoy my roommate. It's literally the same as every Iron Banner for the last 3 years. Don't do it.
This is not a fresh hot take. Every time it comes around, I say
Iron
this.
Banner either sucks or it doesn't. And guess what? It's the same as any other Iron Banner since 2014.
Yeah. No, I agree with you, Birds.
Discord was like, you're maxing out your mic. What the fuck's going on?
I kind of spent a lot of time solo queuing this week in Iron Banner when I had some free time. And
yeah,
I would say 80% of the matches I won. The 20% I lost hard, but whatever. I learned. I had
you get
fun
2
no matter
tokens
what.
and you move on.
Yeah, I got my 2 tokens and I'm just like, all right, move along. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of amnesia in the community right now.
Oh, for sure. I read an article about Hearthstone today because I suck at Hearthstone and I don't spend a lot of money on Hearthstone, and maybe that's it. Topic for a different show. But I read this great article that was like, hey, why do you lose at this game? And it was aimed towards beginners, which I appreciated. And it was sort of saying this thing about Hearthstone, but it really feels like it applies to literally everything. And it said, you are going to win 33% of your games, and you are going to lose 33% of your games. And the other percent, the other third, is really a matter of what you're capable of, and it's up to you. It's like you are going to lose a chunk of games because gaming is luck. Competition is luck. Video games are luck. Card games are luck. So you're going to lose.
And then throw an RNG in that. Like,
yeah. And guess what? If you're Jova rated, you're gonna lose 3%. So you've managed to beat the odds.
Freak of nature.
I am going to lose 33% of my games because that is my life. That is my level. That is what gaming is to me. So what can I do about that other third that is up to me? Because it could go either way. How can I impact those games? So if you lose some games and they're so bad, that sucks. Guess what? That next game is
actually
up to you.
That it doesn't suck. This is not a hot take.
You're right.
Those games where you're getting stomped, that is where you practice the skills that get you the win in that middle third of games. If you are up against a team that is dominantly better for you, the worst thing you can do is go like, oh, I'm just getting stomped with squads.
No, hold on. The worst thing you can do is leave.
Oh yeah, the worst. Yeah.
Oh my god! Like, if you leave, you're the worst person. You're the worst person. I don't care if your spawn, like the spawn sucks sometimes, but if you leave, I don't get angry often, but I get absolutely.
And we were just like, Bird said the hot take thing, and then all of us were just like, and you know what else?
Yeah, really unlocked it.
Oh man. I don't get worked up that much, but when you leave a match, that's the first time I consider sending hate mail to someone.
That's the only outgoing message on PS4.
Like,
where are you going?
Look, if you're losing, you are being given the gift of a rare opportunity for playing against people that are better than you. It doesn't mean that there's some secret where you can win against them, but you can learn how to die less. And I'm not just saying that. Like, that team is going to kill you, I don't know, maybe 10 times that game, but they could kill you 25. So why don't you see if you can get it down to 8 by being more careful with your sight lines, being more conscientious about your positioning? You might win on gun skill every time, or you might not have the team shots because your team is a bunch of bobos. But you are being given a chance to practice something that will make you better when it's on the fence. So practice, just position better, just run away.
There's also the opportunity to observe what they do. Not so much like practice on your end if you're dying a lot. Observe how you're dying. Like, observe how they are getting kills on you that is so much better than your abilities. Are they rotating well? Are they working great as a team? Are they getting team shots on you from multiple angles? Is this guy playing with vertical space more than you? There's so much to learn. Use it as a learning opportunity. Do not leave. I will send you a hate mail.
What does a Swain hate mail look like?
It's just this burger. What that?
No,
it says, hello, boyos.
It's get fucked, boyos. Anyway,
they don't even know why. They don't know what it was from.
We used
no
to be a
context.
very PG podcast. I apologize for anyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I apologize
used to bleep
any
swears.
anybody
One episode
who has
where you went
kids.
bleep.
Anybody that has kids in their car, they're like used to listen to us. That's probably why they don't listen to us.
Let's do a clean
Yeah.
episode next week.
Maybe your kids should not leave matches. Maybe they need to hear this.
All right, I'm calling it. Let's move on to this amazing interview with Ramblinnn.
Guys, this is a gold mine. Ramblinnn is just like... He's just like an insight generator. He knows everything, and he figured it all out the hard way, and you should do your best to keep up. We all should, but sometimes it's just nice to enjoy the hard work he's done. But before we hear it, and I'm so sorry, I know you want to get to it, we need to give a shout out to our sponsor this week.
It's Redbox.
Okay, guys, here's the scoop. Everyone knows Redbox is all about renting movies and video games for cheap. But did you know Redbox also sells used games starting as low as $4.99? So for the price of one of those extra large caramel frap, double espresso, no foam, 2-pump drinkity drinks that you love, or pumpkin spice latte if you're getting into the season,
Drinks.
you could start the most legendary game night tradition ever, playing your hearts out all the way up to bedtime. For way less than you pay in store, you can keep your kids quietly entertained all month long. So you can practice that extremely complex and extremely painful yoga pose and get it down to perfection so you can impress your entire class with your superhuman flexibility. I know the dads of Destiny are doing that yoga.
Doing yoga.
And they are going to be like, damn, check this out. But yeah, I mean, it's great. Buying games from Redbox is a way cheaper option. And this time you keep them forever. You're not renting. And right now, Doom, Dark Souls 3, Madden NFL 2017 are all for sale. So head over to the box and do game night on the cheap.
Redbox.
Redbox.
The smarter way to watch and play.
A drink it, a drink. A drink
Seriously,
it, a
pumpkin
drink.
spice, I'm not above it. I'm excited.
Yo.
No foam to pump. Drink it,
Dirty
a drink.
chai latte, 2 shots. Give it to me.
Swain, what's the one where you put is it a red eye where you put a shot of espresso in a cup of coffee?
Oof.
That's just a dirty.
Yeah, at
cup of
Starbucks
coffee.
you can't say dirty. And
I
it's
do
like-
say that at Starbucks.
I actually got corrected, or the guy said that back to me. Because I had one time where I said dirty chai and they were like, huh? And I was like, oh, it's like with a shot of espresso. And then 3 more times after that, I was like, could you add a shot of espresso? And the guy was like, oh, like dirty? And I was like, yeah,
I don't
like
know what to do.
like, whatever,
There's
man.
no
What do you
winning
want
with
from
these
me?
drinkity drinks. All right, buckle the fuck up.
Grab your drinkity drinks and sit back.
And enjoy this quick musical break real quick, would ya? This is Acrobasis. Coming to you from Norway. You can check them out at facebook.com/acrobasis. Send us some of your music. We love to hear it. crucibleradio@gmail.com. All right, welcome back to the show. I'm so glad you stayed with us. You are in for a treat because we are going to go way in depth with someone who's been paying very close attention to all the little odds and ends in D2. He's here to share some wisdom with us as well as hang out because we're thrilled to have the one, the only Ramblinnn back on the show. Welcome.
Yo, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
Welcome back.
Welcome. Yes, returning. Friend of the show, as we
Been a
like to say.
while.
Been a while. Look,
Hold on a second, Bonesy. Were you just debating about whether or not you were going to go, been a while?
I literally, why I hesitated, because I was like, dude.
Group pause there. Yeah, just leave it.
Anyways.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, whoa, that was close.
Ramblinnn, quick question for you. D2, is it any good? Do you like it?
Never played it.
All right. I don't have anything else to talk about then.
It's pretty
I'm
good.
looking at the DM, and we sent him Battlefront 2, and that's what he prepared for. Sorry, Ramblinnn, that's our bad.
No, but for real. How are you enjoying Destiny 2 so far?
Honestly, it's refreshing. It's a good change up from D1, which for a lot of people is a little bumpy, but it's growing on me, for sure.
I know for sure at the end of D1 you weren't feeling it as much. What about D2 is like reeling you back in?
I think the main thing that's keeping me interested in D2 so far, and it's not that it's going to go away, is that I enjoy using a lot of weapons in this game, which was not the case in D1. I was a palindrome guy, and that was it. Nothing else. Didn't touch any other weapons. Just didn't enjoy them as much as palindrome. But
also, palindrome was really easy to get.
Yeah, that kind of helps a little bit. Just a bit. I'm constantly switching my weapons up in D2 and finding success with them. So it's like a new game every match.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this, I think, every single interview since D2 dropped, but I still have the constant experience of somebody saying like, "Oh yeah, I made this gun, it's great," and I'm thinking like, I've never heard of this. What are they? What are they talking about
over
right
there
now?
using like green shotguns? Like,
yeah,
the greens and the blues, they're all viable. They all got reasons to be picked.
It's great, right?
They really do. So of course this week we have our first Iron Banner. We've got familiar game mode, but some new armor, some new weapons, and just a new D2 feel. How are you feeling about Iron Banner in D2?
Well, I'll go ahead and straight up say that my favorite thing about it is that I get to play Control all week. And the Control is definitely my favorite of the three available to us in Quick Play, so that's been nice. It's been a little... this is kind of a similar feeling to Trials for me. It's kind of casual compared to D1. It's just you go in and you chill with your friends, you have a good time, and I like that. I like where the direction Iron Banner's gone, and maybe that doesn't line up with some people's expectation for the mode, but I find that's setting a good foundation for where D2 can go from here.
Beer and peanuts is essentially. Just go in, enjoy yourself, and like you said, swap around from weapon to weapon, because that's like something I've been doing the entire Iron Banner so far. It's just like, hey, like let me try out the tractor cannon this one around, or the Iron Banner hand cannon really like stuck to me towards the end. So what are you using primarily in Iron Banner this week?
And Iron Banner, mostly hand cannons, but that's the same across the board for me. But I've been just kind of testing things, here and there, adding some new weapons to my arsenal, because eventually I'd like to give every gun a shot, because there's some hidden gems out there that no one's ever even thought to try. So it's worth kind of trying out the ones you least expect. And just this week I added 3 new guns to what I consider my main arsenal. Like I have like my set of weapons that I like to, when I really want to compete, I pull these out, and now it's like just expanding more every day. Yeah,
I'm finding that I didn't have this problem in D1 where like I'd have too many weapons on my Guardian at once, and like constantly just like deleting that one blue that pops up, and just being like,
yeah,
well, I always have 5 primaries on me and 5 energy weapons on me. All right. There's really never any room. Obviously I could use dim, but who wants to use dim? So
everybody wants to use dim.
That's true.
Well, I would love to talk in a little bit more detail about those 3 new weapons that you've added to your arsenal. But listeners, you will have to stay tuned until later, because we've arbitrarily organized the interview slightly differently. Before we get into that, I want to talk about Hunter, because I kind of feel like Hunters are just not quite getting the same love that Titans and Warlocks are, or they are. I mean, people enjoy playing Hunters, but with Striker and the Devour Voidwalker being so strong, so very strong that the hunter subclasses didn't really get a chance to shine. And I think people are starting to come around. They're starting to view the hunters maybe sort of a different use case, with sort of a self-serving class ability, and maybe sort of a higher skill ceiling and a higher skill floor than just the reliability of double pulse nades. But you've really been digging in deep, exploring every subclass and all the different combinations of armor and perks and weapons. So I want to hear your thoughts on it. I figure just to get started, tell us a little bit sort of what's the hunter's story? I mean, with with a warlock or with a titan, the play style is fairly, I don't want to say straightforward, but we sort of know what that identity is. If you want to succeed playing a hunter in general, sort of what play style do you have? How are you using that class ability? What sort of role in a team do you play?
When I think hunter, I think crafty. You have a lot of tools at your disposal. You have a lot of options and a lot of ways to confuse your opponent. So when you go into any game mode, any trials, iron banner, just your normal quick play match, in any single encounter, I think the hunter has the most options to winning that encounter. And that's what allows you to really be unpredictable and really succeed.
I mean, let's talk about movement first, because I think that's going to be a big part of it. What jumper are you using, and why do you like it, or do you mix it up at all?
I've pretty much always been a strafe jump kind of hunter, and that goes the same for D1 when it was increased control. It's that instantaneous burst that you get that allows you to make the jukes that you really want. I'm surprised at how well this works in D2. I think it's just mainly a result of the time to kill, making it difficult to stop you. But in almost any encounter in close range, I'm able to jump over my opponent, turn around and shoot them before they can even react. Just that sudden burst and them having to adjust to my, as a reaction.
Yeah, playing the vertical space in D2 is a little bit more effective, I feel, because not a lot of people are like concentrating on the lookup or trying to get those. And even so,
it's just flat out harder to look up.
It really is hard to look up. So I've been making it a point to like play like the vertical space around doors, and like people will run into the room and you'll be like, oh God, I just jumped over them.
Folks, if you don't know who Ramblinnn is, if you're just new to Destiny with the sequel, or maybe you haven't been around for a few years, there's this video from Destiny 1 where Ramblinnn kind of goes off on some kids. And there's this really great moment where Ramblinnn, you use the control jump. There's a Stormcaller behind you. And I remember this so vividly because I like reacted audibly. And you jump forward and then jump backwards like this was some Mario nonsense where you can just, Super Smash Bros. Go the opposite direction. And you went up like a story, but backwards. And the Stormcaller just had no idea where you went. And that was literally the moment I switched to control jump and now strafe jump. And I haven't used triple jump in like a year now because of that. So I'm glad to see it still working.
Talk a little bit about how you spec for resilience, recovery, and mobility. What are your goals there?
Well, it's an easy pick to not focus on mobility. We can start there. I minimize my mobility, being 4 for Hunter, which unfortunately you can't go any lower. But some people are big fans of mobility. And just to clarify for anyone that might not know, mobility increases your walk speed, which is also your strafe speed. So when you're in a gunfight, you can kind of shift back and forth and maybe make your opponent miss some bullets. And also your initial jump height. The fact that it increases your initial jump height is actually a detriment to me. The way that I use my hunter in the aerial playstyle, I want to stay as low to the ground as possible, not being hanging out in the air. So I want to be way down on that scale. And all the same with the strafing, I try to focus more on hitting my shots than my opponent missing theirs. I think that's a better mindset to have when you're going into a gunfight. You can move over to recovery and resilience now, and there's a little more discussion here. Really, I would recommend maxing your recovery, which is 6 for Hunter. Unfortunately, there are bugged boots right now that will not grant you the recovery that you should be receiving. I'm hoping that gets fixed in. We get a little plus there to go up to 7. I personally rock 6 resilience. I think this is just kind of like a preparation for PC thing, but 6 resilience lets you live 1 hand cannon headshot and 3 body shots, that being the standard medium archetype. Better Devils, I think, actually breaks through that because of the explosive payload, but the Old Fashioned and the Judgment, they will not kill you with that resilience. So I'm just kind of expecting PC that to be a factor, so I'm kind of getting in the right mindset there of, I have 6 resilience, I have 4 recovery, I need to learn this timing and this health.
And then for your class ability, you've got the reload your weapon or recharge your melee when you're in proximity to other enemies. I find myself, I thought I was going to use the melee one exclusively, especially when playing Arcstrider, but have found myself sticking with the Gambler's Dodge. Do you mix them up, or do you have a preference?
It's specific to the subclass for me. For Gunslinger and Nightstalker, you'll find me rocking the Gambler's Dodge, the one that restores your melee when you're in close proximity to an enemy. And that's because of the unique melee abilities that those subclasses offer, that being the throwing knife and the smoke. When it comes to melee cooldown, this was the same at D1. I never invested in strength or anything that would reduce my melee cooldown, unless there was some kind of unique ability granted by the melee charge, and that would be Thunderstrike, the throwing knife, and the smoke. In any other case, I don't think it's worth investing in those charges, because you're going to be able to melee regardless. You're going to be able to punch or slap, whatever you want to call it. So in the case of these two subclasses now in D2, again, I think being able to restore your smoke and your throwing knife and having a second one available pretty much on demand if you're smart with your dodge is very, very useful. And the same logic applies to Arcstrider. It's not that useful to get your disorienting melee back, which, it's still a great melee. It's just not, you can do pretty much the same thing whether or not you have your charge. So you'll see me running the marksman dodge, reloading my slow, fast depleting SMGs and hand cannons, stuff like that for Arcstrider.
I want to talk more about Arcstrider while it's there, and I think I want to lead up to the subclass that I think is kind of like the rising star first. But Arcstrider, I know on this show, I was freaking out about it, and I haven't been as successful. I've been playing the other ones. Which Arcstrider skill tree do you use, and do you think there's good merit to it right now, or is it hindered for some reason compared to the other two?
I think the bottom tree of the Arcstrider here is an obvious choice, granting you first the focus breathing perk, which means more sprint speed, and a very rapidly reduced cooldown on your dodge, both very noticeable. You get the disorienting milling again, which is also strong. It's one of the better melees in the game, in my opinion. You get the combat meditation, where if you're low on health, which hunters usually are because of that low recovery, you get very fast nade and melee charges, so it kind of makes up for not having that Gambler's Dodge. And then finally, the last perk, which is blanking me right now, it's the...
That'd be lightning reflexes. Harder to kill while dodging.
Yeah, that's correct. I forgot it because it's not as quantifiable right now, so I haven't really been able to observe the effects of it. But I can tell it's there. I just got to get verified eventually. And when it comes to Arcstrider being a viable option or not, I think it is. It's one of the best neutral games in any of the classes, in my opinion, any of the subclasses. Those perks have a lot of synergy. They offer good bonuses for the hunter. They offer good bonuses in this meta, in this game. The fault in the subclass, and this is very obvious to many that have played Arcstrider, is the super itself. I can honestly tell you that I feel like I'm handicapping myself when I pop it, and barring a few very specific situations where I would want the enemy to come to me. Like, for example, if I got the bomb planted and they have to come defuse, I can pop an Arcstrider and just defend it and push them away. But when it comes to any kind of situation where I'm trying to chase somebody down, or they're jumping around, they're in the air, they're running away, it's very lacking in options to close out those engagements. It's only really a distraction, and that's what makes it difficult for people to fall in love with the subclass. I think even with that fault present, it's still a viable subclass because of that neutral game.
I like what you said about adding it with factoring in the fact that you are low health a lot with Hunter, or at least if you are me, to kind of have a subclass that counteracts that is a fairly good strategy if it turns out you just can't get a strong recovery build. So I like that point.
I found myself almost starting to use the Arcstrider Super as like a D1 Fist of Havoc, where I try and pop it in the air and then use the smash move to land on a group of people and sort of hope for the best, or just dodge continuously, because that is amusing. One thing I wonder about, with that Way of the Warrior skill tree, there's sort of the obvious combo set up by Deadly Reach, which increases your dodging, increases your melee range. Combat Flow, where your melee kills recharge your dodge ability. And then Combination Blow, where if you actually get a kill with your melee ability, it regenerates your health. And then pairing that with the Gambler's Dodge to have your dodge give you a melee. It seems like there is a potential PvP playstyle for an extremely close quarters player. So, maybe a focus on SMGs or, other close range weapons. Do you think that that's a viable playstyle and we just, don't have someone who's really embraced it and is just spending all of their time inches away, bobbing and weaving and punching people? Or is that something that, may be viable in PvE, but just outmatched currently in PvP?
I think you're putting too many eggs in your basket there to rock that top tree for PvP. It's a little too idealistic. In the perfect situation where you can be that guy that's getting in their face and getting all those melee kills and dodging out of combat, yeah, it would be amazing. But you're taking a big risk in this game where people stack on top of each other so much. There's very little chance you're going to get in close, get a melee kill, and get out without throwing your own life away. So I'm not sure it's worth investing that much into when you can't expect consistent results.
Okay, so and obviously, Lucky Raspberry is great. I mean, it's a consistent enough exotic to pair with that subclass. But are there any other pieces of exotic armor that you think make sense or are supportive of an Arcstrider style gameplay, or that's just the one for you?
It's pretty unanimous in my opinion. Dragon Shadow is a good option, but it's kind of counterintuitive to the way you would use an Arcstrider dodge. You're not getting any bonuses like, and I'll talk about this a little later, like you're not getting that invis off your dodge, so you don't want to be using it unless it's a reaction. So it's not something you go into combat with often. I think having that Arc Bolt chance to regen is worth everything alone, because I think the Arc Bolt is just that great of a grenade in this game, in this meta where people are stacking up, and it does that consistent 90 damage with a pretty good radius. I think it's really only second to pulse nades overall, so fully investing in that Arc Bolt grenade, as boring as it may be, a little one-dimensional, it's really consistent, it's really effective, and I've found serious results from it in the Trials playlist, especially where people are very team shot heavy and focused on moving as a group.
It feels so nice to have you validate all the things I also kind of thought. But one thing
smart,
I had,
birds.
Well, Ramblinnn said so. I mean, he didn't say so, but he sort of implied it. One thing that I really enjoyed watching in your theory crafting stream was that you're actually considering the use of armor mods specifically for each subclass. And of course, we've got a variety of choices. When you're on Arcstrider, what armor mods do you want to use, and sort of what's your reasoning there?
Well, I'm always going to take that plus recovery mod on the boots because there's nothing else really competing with it. And when it comes to the cloak, again, I'm staying away from mobility. So I'll take whichever counterbalance mod applies to the weapons I have. From there, I just kind of look at, do I need another counterbalance mod, whether that be another energy or another kinetic? And there's very few guns that do. That's really just Lincoln Green and what is now the Iron Banner Pulse. They do need that double kinetic. If I need that, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll just start investing in kinetic reload, which is pretty easy pick as well because it's only competing with the energy counterbalance. And then on my chest piece, because I have that Lucky Raspberry, I don't really need grenade charge or anything like that. I can just take a class ability mod. And then finally on my helmet, a plus resilience mod to get the desired stat build I'm going for.
So you're not going to be using melee or grenade recharge mods in this scenario because you have that combat meditation to sort of rely on in the path.
It's not very... The impact from investing in a ability mod outside the class ability is not going to be noticeable because of the benefits I'm already getting.
Word. All right. Well, I want to hear a little bit more about those counterbalance mods later, but we'll save that when we talk about weapons. Let's go to Gunslinger, also known as the class I kind of played for a little bit and then went boring. I'm gonna play Arcstrider instead. Talk us through, and I guess let's start from the top here. What path are you going to build your Gunslinger around?
I am that oddball that runs the top tree with 6-shooter unlocked. I know it's not a popular choice, but it is very, very fun to me.
Yeah, I want to know why though.
Why it's okay. So let's start with the other three perks first before we talk about 6-shooter. It's just a better neutral game compared to the bottom tree. The bottom tree doesn't offer anything significant for PvP that's going to make an impact, except for maybe the precision shot. But now moving into the 6-shooter, I think even the precision shot is not very impactful compared to being able to just double tap a super. Because I think that's the situation where precision is going to matter, is being able to one-shot a super. You can line up a shot and double tap. It's pretty much as fast as about the same rate. And I know you're sacrificing a lot of duration by running 6-shooter, which is where the controversy begins. But just today, I was running a good amount of gunslinger trials, and there were multiple times where an enemy would drop a Titan shield, expecting them to be able to eat all my Goldie shots, and at least two of them to drain my super, sacrifice themselves, or at least a shield. And nobody was prepared for that quick 1-2 pop that I could just eat through the shield, kill them, and they can move on and pick up an extra kill that they were not having to deal with.
How are you using that super? I mean, I guess it makes sense that like your neutral game is key, and that's going to be every minute of every game. But your super you're going to get once or twice a match. I mean, are you saving it as sort of a counter to other supers? Are you sort of waiting for that perfect moment when they're all bunched up or no one's going to be able to dip behind a corner before it runs out? Sort of when do you decide when to pop that?
That is the key to making use of the 6-shooter, is knowing when to pop and not being able to use it as a, just I'm going to use it now and this will be fine, hope for the best. With a 6-shooter, you have to have a specific purpose in mind for your super pop. That could be securing power ammo. That could be securing a defuse. That could be securing a plant. That could be securing 2 kills on a flank. That could be shutting down a super. You have to have a goal in mind that you can achieve, because you're taking a big risk when you pop that super. All this time you spent earning it, and now it's going to be gone 5 seconds later. You really need to know what you're doing, and you need to be ready to capitalize. I've been spending this past week playing Sunbreaker, and that's kind of what I've experienced for that subclass too. Is that you really, really have to be prepared to use it, because, like you said, it's gonna go quick, and you gotta know where you're gonna point it.
All the animals love Ramblinnn.
I know, it's a pet episode.
Episode.
Nope, don't.
Let's talk about grenades a little bit on Gunslinger. I think I sort of stick with my default of incendiary, and I kind of laugh every time somebody throws a swarm grenade at me, and I just stand apparently 18 inches away and am impervious to it. What's your choice there, and are you dead set on it?
I'm pretty set on Tripmine Grenade. The 160 damage in this meta where weapons are a little weaker compared to D1. They almost feel stronger than D1 because of that, because it's such a big burst of damage where you can finish off with a single hand cannon body shot, which I'm commonly rocking with Gunslinger. It really has a lot of synergy there. And even with the throwing knife, because you have that explosive throwing knife, it's like you've got 2 little grenades that do 2 different things, and you're able to kind of corner them into a situation where you have the full advantage and you can lock it down.
So talk me through the angles of this a little bit. When your grenade is up and you're going into an engagement that is, at least somewhat evenly matched on both sides, so, more than one person on both sides, what are you sort of thinking for placement and timing of that trip mine?
Usually I'm trying to cut off their best option before, what they would have, I'd expect them to do had that grenade not be there. I want to make them panic, and I want to put them in a situation where they have to face me head on, which in the time that it takes them to react and make that new decision, I've already made my move, and I can capitalize on their lack of options, that I've limited their best option, and now I'm coming in from a different angle that they weren't prepared to handle.
Does that change when you're flanking versus sort of being at the front line?
It can, but in general, I won't go for a lead tag with a trip mine unless there's some kind of expectation I have for them to be taking a gunfight or taking a bomb site. Usually I'll use it once I've already established the dominance in a encounter, that they're kind of on the retreat, and I know I can kind of expect them to go a certain direction. Otherwise, I'm going to save that trip mine for the perfect moment, because it is a very long cooldown, and there's no way to just instantly restore it. And kind of similar to how we had Scavenger in D1, you have to be smart with it, and you have to capitalize on that long cooldown, because you're not getting it back for a while.
Okay, and I guess that takes us to the final detail on Gunslinger. What are you going to be your choices for armor mods with Gunslinger?
Armor mods for Gunslinger is tricky because Gunslinger is not spec'd well based on what I would normally run for mods, and that would be you would usually want the plus art recovery, you usually want the plus resilience, but the kicker on what gets you on Gunslinger is the class ability mods are not in good spots. They're on the helmet and the boots, so you're clashing there with the two of them. I've kind of given that resilience up to get at least one class ability mod on, and then I keep my recovery because it's hard to get recovery. Otherwise, I don't really want that recovery mod. Again, I'll consider the counterbalance mods if I need them. Otherwise, I go straight to kinetic reload. And really, the only bare spot is the chest piece, because if you're not running a counterbalance mod, all there is the melee ability mod, and that's not doing much for you when you already have Gambler's Dodge. I'll take it, but it's kind of like puts Gunslinger at a disadvantage when it comes to gearing up, is you don't have a lot of options to getting exactly what you want, or at least what I want. I find it tricky to really min-max there.
So on Gunslinger for exotic armor, I mean, are you just going to default to the Dragon Shadow, or is there any others that you use?
No, again, because of Gunslinger.
Pulling out the Celestial Nighthawk.
Yes, always. Style points, so really want to rub it in. Again, similar to Archetype, you're not using your dodge for anything other than a reaction. It's not a preliminary tool. It could be if you really want to make Dragon Shadow work, but I find that hard to really ingrain in my brain when I'm trying to, switch between all the subclasses. I kind of have an idea for how I'm going to use each of them. Really, it would come down to me for Foe Tracer, Knucklehead, and Lucky Pants. Knucklehead and Foe Tracer are both great exotics. I would recommend them to pretty much anyone, but the fact that I'm likely not going to be running them on other subclasses, and the fact that I kind of feel that I can get away without using them, and just using my own general awareness to replace their effects, I find myself kind of gravitating towards Lucky Pants, not because of the accuracy boost. I haven't noticed too much from that accuracy boost for my hand cannons, but the handling boost is actually very significant when you have these two, what we consider primary weapons. You have kinetic and energy, and when I'm in the air so much, being able to instantly bring my hand cannon out for a gunfight for an encounter is huge. It's perfect.
And I guess that makes sense too if you're focusing on hand cannons where you've got a limited magazine size. They generally take a little bit longer to reload, and you're going to be switching to your other one just to make up for it. I noticed you haven't mentioned Stompies yet. Everybody loves Stompies.
I was going to ask about those, and then you said that thing about not jumping too high, and that's the actual problem with Stompies, is that I jump into the ceiling a lot, and I just assumed that you were probably not on those too much.
It's a little bit that, and a little bit, I was never a fan of knee pads in D1. I don't like being locked in that slide animation, especially when shotguns are so much less prevalent now, being a power weapon and not even being the best option, in my opinion. It's really a very low impact exotic, and even less so than Lucky Pants for me. And in the end, the sprint boost, and this is my understanding, it doesn't stack with Keen Scout and Focus Breathing, so if I was even going to run it, the only subclass I'd be getting that benefit on is Gunslinger.
Okay, last but not least, I think what we said on this show earlier was sort of very much mirrored in the general population's opinions. Then we started playing with it more, and Ramblinnn, we actually ran a card with you. We were talking about that a little bit, but Nightstalker has kind of risen up as a very viable, if not great, choice on Hunter. And I think perhaps the differences from Destiny 1 kind of threw people off. I know that's true for some subclasses as well. But Nightstalker feels good. I feel good on Nightstalker, and I don't even play Hunter that much. What is it about this class that you like, that's different, or that stands out compared to the other Hunter subs?
Well, I think what's important to note is what we didn't know looking at the subclass right away. We did not know that the snare would show up on enemy radar. That wasn't immediately present.
Yeah.
So everyone assumed, why would you assume that is the case? Figuring that out, I think, was first weekend for a lot of people. Recognizing that there was some weird anomaly on the radar and being able to tie it up to the smoke. That kind of gave Nightstalker one more option than you even expected. That was kind of where I started really considering, hey, this might be worth a shot again. And then you kind of look at the other options that you did. You're kind of thinking, oh, they're all right, but they don't have too many tools. But you got the invis dodge, and you got obviously the super, and then again you have your smoke and your spike. You have so many different tools to work with that you're really playing into the hunter's strengths here.
I mean, it just seems to fit with sort of your initial description of Hunter as being crafty with a big toolkit and sort of it's the thinking gamers subclass. I'm so
Birds,
sorry.
you're so smart.
I know. Thank you. I am torn here between the two paths. I find myself going between them quite a bit. But they are very different play styles, at least in my experience. What are you using?
Top tree. Definitely top tree. I don't think you can pass on that invis dodge and that snare.
Oh,
That's the selling point for me.
Drives me nuts.
That's why it's good. That's how you know. Drives Titans nuts.
Then you shoot it, and then you're stuck in the smoke, and then...
So tell me about the role the smoke plays. I mean, everyone was essentially using their smoke in D1 as a second grenade that also sort of slows and disorients. When your melee comes up on Nightstalker, what is sort of the situation that you're looking to use it in?
There are three real options you have for snare, and again, this is what makes it so fun to play to me, is you have these options to choose from. First is just going to be your general offensive, throw it in and may stick it to them, do a little bit of damage, but mostly disorient them. And I feel like that's a pretty guaranteed way to win an encounter. So if there's ever a situation where I have a melee up and I'm not sure if I can finish them off, I'll go right to my smoke. And then next you're looking at the smoke's decoy purpose, where you can use it as you kind of throw your opponent off guard. And I'm still kind of learning the best ways to make use of this. It's going to take some time to really capitalize on almost using the snare as another teammate in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a great way to put it.
What you can do with it is just put it in spots that make your opponent hesitate. And maybe they even know that there's a decoy smoke. But the fact that they even have to consider that there's a threat coming from another angle that they weren't prepared for, you can make them panic again and make them hesitate to make the move they may have initially considered. Finally, you're just looking at a general kind of like an alarm. If you can throw it in positions where if an opponent runs out through it and sets off, and this is close to the D1 purpose of a snare, just being there as a trap. That's useful too. Throwing on a bomb site so that they have to go through it just to get to their intended objective is plenty useful. It's an option.
I almost put $1 in the Overwatch jar, but I'm not going to talk about it.
So the snare, I just want to get the final answer to this. Is there many options where you throw it at an opponent to say, I'm going to trap you right now? Is it even feasible to try to sort of wombo combo, or is it just with the cooldowns and the changes? Is that just sort of a waste of two abilities right off the bat?
You're wasting it. You really are. You don't need both in almost any situation, and really, I wouldn't recommend it. And this kind of plays into what made my grenade choice being the spike. It's different from D1 because in D1 I ran Void Vault pretty much exclusively. Being able to throw the smoke in the Void Vault at the same location and get that wombo effect was significant. But with a spike, you're throwing it at a different spot. And I think that's kind of what's marked it as being different for D2 for me, is that I pretty much never use them together. I almost never need them together, and I almost never want them together. They're two different devices for their own purposes, and they don't really go together in the same way that they did in Destiny 1.
One thing I've wondered about with the use of your smoke in particular is, and I've used this combination before, but never intentionally. It's always just sort of a pleasant surprise when it happens. But if I happen to be using a gun with a highlighting scope and land a snare, on a team that's all clumped up together, that can be sort of a huge advantage to be able to sort of more quickly pick out headshots. Is that something that you're considering at all, or are there other scope choices that just make that not worth it relatively?
I don't think I've ever really used a highlighting scope extensively, and maybe that's just a preference, but I'm usually sticking to the lower range, probably usually faster handling scopes that are a little less obtrusive, I'd say.
Yep, I'd agree with that. All right, and then finally, talk to me a little bit about the super on this. This is certainly a point of contention for a lot of people. I know it was a little frustrating for me, where it was just like, especially with Quiver in D1, it's like, all right, this is just sort of bad projectile non-hit scan golden gun, and just kind of doesn't work like that anymore. Are you taking advantage of the deadfall perk? Are you sort of using this defensively, or in maybe the same way you'd use a trip mine? How do you decide to pop that one super or two supers of the game?
I've found generally that it's not really a good super shutdown super anymore because of how delayed that proc is and not being able to instantly suppress. It's not really something you usually want to waste your tether on unless you have a big jump on them. You don't want to use it as a reflex. You could use it as a trap to kind of shoo them away and make them not come into a certain area because of the tether lasting so long now, it's not going to set off until they actually go through it. That's pretty useful. It can be used as pretty much a deny, but it's not really something you can use to chase down a super with. It's not something you can use as an aggressive tool. Of course, it's a trap. It's a defensive super. So a lot of times it's just a matter of forcing my opponent to have to go through this area or being stuck with the tether. It's kind of cutting off the opponent's options. And again, because they can shoot the tether, you need to be smart about putting it in a position where they can't actually reach it.
All right. And to round it out, I've got two more questions on the topic of subclasses. Of course, I want to know what armor mods you're using for Nightstalker, although I have a guess for this one because it seems like the meta is fairly settled here. But what's going to be your choice on Nightstalker? For
Nightstalker, it's a very, very clear cut to me being the triple void paragon. It's the only subclass that gets access to it. That's 6 seconds off of your dodge, 18-second dodge. Having that invis up that frequently, which is way more common than you would expect when you actually get into an encounter. And then also having, for me, Dragon Shadow is my exotic, getting a 9-10 second buff depending on when you start timing it. That's half my uptime. I have max handling, max reload, and I go invis at that that frequency. I think that's incredibly useful.
That's crazy.
From there, you can just fill in with whatever counterbalance mod you need and a kinetic reload for me and the plus recovery most often.
How are you best utilizing Invis?
Invis is interesting in this game because it introduced the mechanic of completely shutting aim assist, which is obviously very useful on console where aim assist is a huge factor. But more often than not, I'm finding Invis as a great tool for leading an engagement, catching an opponent off guard, and just getting that one extra shot in with my maxed out weapon stats and being able to just come at an angle that they weren't ready for is huge. In the same way, you can use it to escape an encounter, shedding that aim assist, having your enemy lose track of you because of that invis, and just retreating, regrouping, and giving it another try once you get your grenade or your smoke, or whatever you really need to win that encounter. Buying yourself time is a huge thing.
I've definitely been hit by it.
It is strange to have sort of that invis more on demand than it was in D1, where there's not an extended crouch, there's not somebody using their smoke to get it. Just the sound of somebody going like, I don't like the way this is headed. I'm going to become clear now. Big picture, looking at all three subclasses, what do you like? What's your favorite? What do you think is the strongest or the most competitive? What's the best one for beginners? Sort of help me understand how these three different subclasses relate to each other.
I want to start off by saying that I enjoy all three of them. I played all three of them today. I play all three of them throughout the week. They're all fun in their own ways, but I think it comes down to, again, just what the hunter is best at having so many options, and I think the Nightstalker is king there. I enjoy Nightstalker for that reason because it's the most satisfying to play. It has the most mind games. It has the most ways to utilize the subclass, the smoke, the snare, everything it's got going for it. And then having a really high skill ceiling because of that, I think is what's the most enjoyable playstyle for me, at least. Obviously, the super is not the best, but it doesn't have to be. It has such a great neutral game, which is, to me, a much bigger factor in this game, at least. That's a bigger factor to me in terms of which subclass are you going to choose. Gunslinger, the super is the best of the three. It's probably my second favorite. I still love the trip mine. I still love the throwing knife. But just having a little less options and the super, for me, not being as fun as maybe some others is. I've just never been a big Goldie fan, but I'm finding it more enjoyable in D2 because of the increased movement from the dodge you get. Arcstrider is sitting at the bottom of the three for me. I'd say it's the easiest to play, but it's also because of that it's a little bit one-dimensional. If you're just going to run the Arc Bolt Lucky Raspberry, you're going to find success, but it's not very interesting. And the super, maybe, again, not the greatest, but you shouldn't be speccing for your super in the first place. You should be speccing for the neutral game and the movement and everything else that you're going to have access to throughout the majority of the game, and not the few situations where it really doesn't make a big impact.
10 to 15 seconds that you're going to be in super compared to the rest of the entire match.
Or in Gunslinger's case, the 3 seconds out of a 5-minute game.
Ooh.
I have not unlocked that perk. I am one of those guys.
I don't blame you. It's a good choice.
I just need a little more time. All right. I don't like being rushed.
So I kind of want to go back around since we finished up on subclasses and dive back into weapons, because just like you have been exploring subclasses on hunters, I feel like you are one of few people that I see experimenting with like off-brand primaries, like kinetic weapons, and even with your energy weapons as well. The pairing is much different than what I'm seeing with other people. So what are you using the most? What sort of combination do you like the most?
I found my favorite loadout to be hand cannon scout fusion, but I'd say the scout filling in there is only because of the meta that this game has kind of developed of being a pick and pop, where you want to weaken your opponent and then push in. I like having that scout as a kind of an opener where I can finish off with my hand cannon. I would say I enjoy pulses more than scout, and I think they're plenty viable in the same way that I think hand cannons are in a really good spot right now. I know that's not a popular opinion for either, but they people are playing. They're using the weapons the D1 way, where they're your only weapon, and they're not using them in a synergistic way where you're using both together. And I found that hand cannons and pulses work well for that, the same way that hand cannon scout does. Being able to get some shots in your opponent, peek in and out, and really push in for the final blow with that hand cannon. That's very satisfying to me to get that. There's a lot of mind games to doing it, is putting your opponent in a position where you have that advantage. I found that to be the most enjoyable playstyle.
I had this game on Altar of Flame today, and I was using the Iron Banner hand cannon. And because of the way the meta is like kind of filling out, like everyone on both sides of the my team and their team were so far back from B point and just like picking at each other. And I was sitting on B point in that little like connector that goes like down, like that slope that goes down from B. And I was just like turning around, one-shotting someone with the hand cannon, and then turning around, one-shot another person. Anyone that moved in, the rest of my team was like, pecking at them, and I was just cleaning up. I must have gotten 10 kills, just cleanups, at like turning around back and forth, just on that one point. And it was just like, it felt so satisfying. It was like, this gun works so great, like in this current meta. I approve.
Can you talk a little bit sort of about the different hand cannon archetypes, and do they have different use cases? I mean, I don't think they're all quite viable, but sort of what are you thinking when you're picking out a hand cannon?
Well, let's start with the least used of the three, in my opinion. That'd be the highest impact. They're interesting in this game because they're the only ones that can 3-tap with headshots, which is awesome. That's an ideal situation where you can hit 3 headshots, and it happens sometimes when I run them. I give them their own fair shot. But the fire rate is less than ideal in the same way. So I find myself straying away from them because they're a little more difficult to use in actual combat where you're fighting against faster firing weapons. And that leads us to the discussion between the fastest firing archetype and the medium archetype. Recently, people have been finding a lot of success with the fastest archetype because it's very similar in damage. It's the Dire Promise being the king there. A lot of people are falling in love with from Dead Orbit. And I, too, found a lot of success with it. But when I sat down and I really looked at the numbers, I realized okay, so maybe it only does 1 less damage to the head, and maybe it does only 5 less damage to the body. But that little less damage is actually really significant. It's 60 to the head and 40 to the body. That's 100 damage. That's, you add in a melee or a grenade, that's not enough for a kill most of the time. That's a big deal. So I found myself going back up to the medium archetype, the better devils, the judgments, and the old fashions, because I'm finding a lot more consistency and success with the way I'm using them of being an aggressive finisher, going for the headshot body melee or the headshot body grenade. And in a lot of situations, I found Dire Promise and those fast-firing archetypes, as satisfying as they are to use and as great of a hit rate as they really do feel they have, they do fall short in some situations. I think that's worth considering.
Do you think the faster firing ones encourage more misses? Because you're just like, you have the ability to kind of go quick. Do you find that like, oh man, I'm missing my shots a little bit more than I think I would have on a medium to high?
I wouldn't say so. Maybe that depends on the player, but the difference in fire rate isn't significant enough that it's really changing the way I use the hand cannon. It's just me recognizing that I can't fire this fast. I should try that. And with the hit reg being as good as it is on the hand cannon, at least for the Dire Promise and a few others that I've tried, I found that it's not too different from the medium archetype, really.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that I was more so thinking like someone that's just picking them up and it's like, oh, this doesn't work.
Right. I can understand that. They're almost tougher to use because of that. If you're trying to go for the ideal time to kill, you have less time to acquire your target and keep your aim steady. So I could see them being a little higher skill for there.
I mean, I can't think of a possible answer you could give to this aside from it depends, but I'm going to try anyways. When you're going into an engagement, if we consider engagement sort of a team level engagement where, it's not just one kill, but, shooting for 2, 3, or 4 kills in a row, are you going into that engagement when you're holding a hand cannon, planning that you're going to either start with another weapon and then switch to your hand cannon at the end, or maybe lead off with your hand cannon and do cleanup with your other weapon, or just keep firing it until you run out of bullets and then decide what's going to happen? Sort of, what's the, in the heat of the moment, what's sort of your strategy for switching between them?
Well, I think that does depend, but not on the factors you're probably considering. It really depends more on the range of encounter that you're taking, because when you're usually pairing it with a longer range weapon, being hand cannon at short range, I have a scout rifle or anything like that. If I'm going into a close range encounter, I'm taking my hand cannon no matter what the enemy's like. Peek in and out, get a couple shots in them, and finish off with whatever I have available. But any damage is good damage. So I'm going to take that opportunity regardless of what weapon I have out. And that's more often not the hand cannon because it's a little more, has a little better success rate at that range. It seems like you're considering that.
Makes sense. All right, well, let's talk about pulses. I mean,
yeah,
pulses are not getting a lot of action, but I think, sort of as you say, like they're in as unique a spot as hand cannons are right now. Take it from the top. What pulse should we be using, and how should I be trying to use it?
There's 4 pulses that immediately come to mind, being the Agenda 5 and the Nurgle and the Energy Slot. The Agenda 5 being my preference of the 2, but I understand the desire for the Nurgle as well. And then the kinetic. You
don't mind the scopes on it? I found the sort of relatively high zoom scopes on the Agenda 5 really hard to use.
I actually found that pretty desirable for the play style that I use, with that being a little more medium range compared to close. It took me a little bit to get used to, but I quite like the gun because of how stable it really can be with the Zen moment.
So you're really using your pulse rifle as a long range weapon.
Yes, it's not quite scout range, but being able to get the trickle damage and sometimes even finishing kills that people weren't expecting is just as impactful as a scout could be, with a little more options that meet more closer medium range.
Do you challenge scouts at all, or is it less about trying to beat them at their own game and just sort of creating distances where it works?
No, I don't think there's very many situations where you need to challenge a scout head on. There's always an opportunity to put yourself in a situation where you don't have to fight that scout head on.
Oh, someone clip that. I wish this was Twitch.
Isn't it kind of funny that in D2 we're talking about scouts as this like semi-unstoppable force that you just have to outsmart and reckon against? What a world.
Do I hate it? No.
All right. Well, let's talk about your kinetic slot then. What pulses stand out there?
My main weapon going into week 1 of Trials was Nightshade, and that hasn't left my inventory. And now with Iron Banner coming around, the pulse being a faster firing, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I think it's the Time Worn Spire, possibly.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay. I've been rocking a couple counterbalance mods on that, and it is a vertical laser. And it's competing with weapons I wouldn't expect it to. It's a faster firing pulse. I would expect it to be closer range, but it's got a pretty good medium range to it.
So do you think that because you're on the Hunter subclass and you have access to those 2 possible mods, do you think you have more, in your arsenal and you're taking full advantage of that? And should others be doing that?
Yeah, I think counterbalance mods it's probably the most impactful mod overall when it works. And it doesn't work on every gun because a lot of guns already have vertical recoil, or they're semi-shot weapons like hand cannons and scouts. You don't need them there. But for a fast-firing pulse, take what you can. As a hunter, you should be making use of that. And there aren't many weapons I think need 2, being really only so far my experience, the Lincoln Green and the Time Worn Spire, because they have such horizontal recoil. But the impact is noticeable when you equip them, and it makes like a completely new gun.
Yeah, I think I really like that idea that like this can take this from here to here, like up a notch, and become a completely viable weapon just because you have these mods at your disposal.
Does that mean that you're going to be using either of those 2 pulse rifles on Nightstalker less because you're sort of optimizing for your class ability mod cooldown?
Yes, I avoid using them on Nightstalker because I'm always going to have triple void paragon. I think that's more fitting to my playstyle to have that invis up as often as possible. So a lot of times my subclass can determine my weapon choice in terms of what I'm going to look at. And when I have so many options, that's okay. I don't need to feel forced into a certain set of weapons because I have so many other ones to consider.
All right, well, let's round it out. Power weapons, I'm curious to know what you find to be the real standouts there. There's one in particular that I don't think a lot of people are up on that you are all about in the shotgun slot. But yeah, sort of give me the lay of the land there. What are the standouts? What are the go-tos for you when you're really trying to hustle?
Well, let's talk first about Quick Fang being the Hunter's class exclusive sword. I found probably the most fun with it, but when I was rocking it, I was finding more use out of just having it as a movement option in third person FOV kind of thing than actually picking up the ammo. More often than not, I would kind of relegate the ammo to my teammates who had the rockets and the snipers that could really make proper use out of it, where swords are only really useful. And they're good, don't get me wrong, it's just they're very predictable. So I found myself kind of shying away from it recently, mostly because it got a little stale fast. I'm sure I'll rotate back around to Quick Fang eventually. The other 2 that I've been using the most recently, and I think are probably my favorites 2 overall, would be first the main ingredient fusion rifle, the Vanguard from the beta, Vanguard fusion from the beta.
Woo!
It's super consistent. It's got the bonus damage on a kill. It's got a nice sight. It's got good range. It's got good stability. It's got everything I want in a gun in terms of being able to win any single encounter, and then as well being able to wipe an enemy team from a good decent range.
Ramblinnn, have you gotten the Iron Banner fusion rifle?
I use it for a bit today, or the other day, but I think you're relying a little bit too much on that quick swap perk. Usually, when I have a power weapon, I want to go full force with it and just utilize all that ammo as fast as I can, instead of risking the chance of dying over time. I don't want to be swapping between my weapons. I want to just go fusion, and be done with it.
I was using it less with the swap, and I found it benefited more from the mods because it has that kind of horizontal recoil on it instead of the main ingredient has the vertical one. So I was finding that it's actually a pretty decent gun if you're just utilizing it normally.
Gotcha.
And it has that like 4-bolt kill, so you can kind of push your ranges a little bit more than you can main ingredient. You got to be a little bit more, hesitant with your engagements because you have the longer charge time, and that's why the main ingredient shines. But I've taken a shine to this Iron Banner fusion.
Tell me a little bit about sniping in D2.
Sniping. I think it's in a great spot. A lot of people ask for less flinch, but this is a topic that comes up often. I think the amount of flinch we have right now is very much fitting for a slower time to kill. If you give snipers less flinch and allow them to fight through the scouts and the autos that you're going to commonly see, you're not. Yeah, that's not good.
It'll be off to the races again.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, because that instant time to kill, either from a body shot and something else, or the really accurate plays are going to be hitting the headshots. That's not a good spot to be moving towards.
I think one of the harder adjustments for me has been the handling speed, and it's all about finding the gun that has the right perk. But man, sometimes it was like, it takes me an hour to get my scope out, and it's less about that insanely fast reactive quick scopes and more about just getting positioning now.
I would agree with that. It's you want to be keeping yourself off radar. Ideally, you want to be giving yourself a chance to get a flank, get an angle that the enemy doesn't expect. And that was mostly how I sniped in D1. I didn't like to go head on with opponents and really fight through their bullets. I think the sniper is a good tool for getting picks, which is what a sniper should be doing, in my opinion. And getting a kill, moving to a new spot, and taking another angle, and regrouping from there.
And then finally, talk to me about shotgun. Well, talk to me about shotgun.
Talk to me about shotgun. I've been trying out a lot of shotguns, and they're great in D2, but there's a few of them that have been kind of inconsistent for me. I don't know. I can't quite track down why yet. The Retrofutures especially has been blanking a lot for me. Maybe it's just something to do with the perks I have selected on. Maybe I need to give another option. But this week I gave the Legend of Acrobasis a try for the first time, the Raid Exotic Quest weapon, and it is a monster. It is unstoppable. It has ridiculous one-shot range and a very steep drop-off where it won't do damage anymore, and it's very quick to learn. But the fact that it has the 4 shots, and regardless of it only having 2 in the actual mag, there's not a single encounter that you go into that you would be taking a shotgun into that you're going to lose. It's very hard to stop if the opponent knows what they're doing with it, and that you being smart with your movement and not just running in head on, but taking an angle where you can catch your opponent off guard and just wipe a team possibly.
This has turned into a Ramblinnn episode. This is all killer, no filler. But I got one more question. Maybe Bones and Swain have one, but I have one more question I want to know, just because this is increasingly amusing to me.
I'm just getting over the fact that I shouldn't be using stompies, and I'm going to switch as soon as I get the dragon thing.
Are there any blue and green weapons that people are sleeping on?
There's a few. I haven't found any of them to my preference, but I know there's the Auction Blue Sniper that has an ambush, and I think it's like a snapshot perk on it. They're really good handling, like ambush from D1. Mm-hmm. There's a hand cannon that can 2-shot with kill clip active. There's an SMG that can mirror the anti-OP if you haven't gotten that to drop from the gunsmith. It's very similar also with kill clip. They're out there. So I would say try them. Give them a shot, and maybe it's not someone else had recommended, but a lot of times they're just as good as the legendaries and the exotics, and they're worth giving a try, especially if they can replace a gun that you haven't gotten access to yet.
Okay, well, I feel like we could talk about this game literally forever, but at this point, we kind of feel guilty for taking up so much of your time. So I guess what we'll have to do is just have you back on soon. But one thing I think about this discussion that really stands out to me and that makes me excited is that it couldn't have happened a month ago because we just didn't know enough. And it's so cool to see how much we know now and how, your playstyle is all about exploring it. And that's what makes this fun. And to think I could turn on the game right now and go wow, there is 10, 15 setups that I have just not put enough time in with. And that's really cool. So thank you so much for spending the time with us and explaining that. But if people want to watch you or follow you on social media, where can folks find you on the internet?
I am primarily a Twitch streamer. Going to be finding me at twitch.tv/Ramblinnn, RAMBLINNN, 3 N's there. You can also keep up with me on Twitter. I've tried to be very vocal, very active about not only what's going on with my stream, but what's going on in the game, my observations, what my testing has shown, and what I've learned over the course of this past month now. I try to be pretty vocal about that on Twitter. I do have a YouTube. I do have a Reddit account. They're not very active right now. You can look for me at the same name, being Ramblinnn again, and maybe expect some of that posting from me in the future.
Tell him about how you use the setup he talked about on the show. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah,
Pause
everyone
the show
else,
right
go try
do
this
that.
stuff out because I don't have time to. I'm just going to keep playing Dawnblade like an idiot.
Dumb blade.
Ramblinnn, thank you so much for coming on. This has been an incredible discussion. We'll have to have you back soon.
I appreciate it. It's an honor to be back. Thank you.
Episode.
CrucibleRadio.com.
It's a Ramblinnn
At Crucible Radio on Twitter. Check out those maps by Relic. Follow me on Twitch at Bones_CR. Follow Swain at SwainStash.
Ramblinnn episode.
Bye.
It's a Ramblinnn episode.
Damn it.
I just hate it.
Goodbye,
All right,
boyos.
Goodbye, boyos.
All right, so let's go ahead and finish out Arcstrider. When you're using Arcstrider, what is your grenade of choice? And
They're a mess.
what is your dog's grenade of choice and exotic of choice?
The bark bolt grenade.
Oh,
Terrible.
Wow.
man.
Andrew, I guess leave that in. Okay.
What's up, everyone? Bones here. Do you like podcasts? Do you like chill conversation? Well, me and my co-hosts Swain and Birds put out a bonus podcast every month on Patreon. If you want to check it out and be a part of more awesome stuff, head over to patreon.com/Crucible Radio and join the squad. See you there.